You had a question. You had a question to bring to the Lockdown Lounge.
Yeah, I did. So my topic is, and it sort of sisters in really well with what we were just talking about. With do you explicitly teach skills? So how do you? And you sort of mentioned it. You went into it a little bit as well. So how do you explicitly coach decision making? So I'll throw that one over to you first.
Okay, so it totally ties in with what we've just been discussing.
Yeah.
One of the principles of coaching that I have, and I think early in my coaching career, I definitely didn't have this, but about 5 years into it, I started to learn. I believe the genius, in inverted commas, and you can have some flexibility with that, but the genius resides within the players, and it's our job as a coach to tease that out. So I'm going to say this in real simple layman's terms. I'm not going to use any complicated language or theory, but basically we are amazing as humans. We can do amazing things. We can do things without even thinking about them. So do you remember, Joel, brushing your teeth this morning?
Yes.
Do you remember every little moment of the brush going to the left, to the middle, to the right, or did you do many things on autopilot? Do you remember driving your car the last time you drove your car? Do you remember every little step that you took driving that car? No. And that's because you've done it over and over and over and over again, and you are instinctively, mentally cutting out so many things that aren't important. So if it's your toothpaste and your toothbrush, to grab your toothpaste, grab your toothbrush, you might have even not been looking. You might have just put your hand down and done it and brush your teeth. Driving your car, you could get in your car now. You go out, drive out the garage, and you will probably drive the vast majority of that time on autopilot, right? It's a very dangerous place to be in when you think that road safety is a real issue in society, but ultimately we do drive on autopilot vast majority of the time, don't we? We think about anything apart from the road and the car sometimes because we're so good at doing it. And we can instinctively look and see cars and pedestrians, and we don't need to put all our focus on that. We don't sit in the car and look at the road like this and then go, right, I've got to change gears now. And then look at the gear. Oh, I've now got to put my foot on the clutch. Oh, we don't do that. And that's because we've practiced it and practiced it and practiced it. So as a coach, you asked me how I coach decision-making. I put them in situations through that framework I just told you about. So isolation doesn't include decision-making, but opposition and game does. But what I actually do quite often is stop and start. So I'm very comfortable coaching game because I believe I can recognize the different moving parts and I can see space. I can see, especially if you stand back as a coach 20 or 30 meters, you can see space. And that's why spectators always sit in a grandstand and go, why didn't you pass to there? Or move the ball now to the left. There's a space, and the players don't see it. And I just teach them while they're training, and I'll do a turnover. So if you imagine, I'll put it in your context, soccer, right? If the red team have got possession and you want them to pass to a certain place and they don't, you just blow the whistle, turn it over, give it to the blue team. They'll soon work out where they should have passed to, right? And that's ultimately our coach decision making. It's because I firmly believe that the genius resides in that player, and they don't need an instruction manual of how to find that space. They need to work it out in their subconscious, and eventually they will work out the cause and effect. So in rugby league, if you took 3 players to the left, the defence will do a certain thing, which means there'll be space on the right, or there'll be a fragmented defensive line, and that forms the basis of decision making. So ultimately, that's how I teach it. I put them into game situations, and I stop and start and say, what could you have done there? What did you see there? And then the other thing to throw on top of that is video. So if you video training sessions and say, why didn't you shift the ball then? Or Why didn't you draw and pass there? And I quite often find that my first trial of the season in any pre-season with a new team, it is full of poor decision making from the players because they're not used to it. Because in rugby league, they quite often coach to bash, to run the ball up, bang, 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 not look left and right.